You guys, it's Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and today we are continuing the Nightmare on Elm Street Revisited series, revisiting the original classic A Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984, directed by Wes Craven, starring Heather Langenkamp, Robert Englund, John Saxon, Johnny Depp, and more. Now, I felt compelled to do this one next, and the one after this will probably be Dream Warriors, honestly. I'm doing this it's just kind of I'm shooting from the hip here. What I feel passionate about talking about that day, for good or bad. Can't wait to get to Freddy's Dead. But let's talk about it. So obviously you guys know by now, I mean, it's in pop culture. The plot of A Nightmare on Elm Street is very straightforward. Group of teenagers are having dreams of a burnt up dude in a sweater and a hat with razor fingers trying to kill them in their dreams. And they don't know why. They don't know what his connection is to them. And they find out that he was a child murderer that got off on a technicality. So the parents of all these teenagers burned him alive. So he's come back as a vengeful dream demon to kill the kids of those parents one by one as revenge. And he feeds off of their fear. And that's the plot of A Nightmare on Elm Street. It's very, very straightforward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys my pros, I'm going to give you guys my cons, and then we're going to wrap it up with an overall rating, as we always do. But if you're new to the channel, please make sure to subscribe down below, leave a like on this video, and comment down below and let me know what you think of A Nightmare on Elm Street. But without further ado, let's get into the pros of A Nightmare on Elm Street. So first and foremost, the first pro we've got to talk about is the creation of a horror icon, Freddy Krueger. Now this is double-sided. First of all, the character of Freddy Krueger, with his, checkered backstory, his vengeful motivations, and just what he is capable of doing in controlling the dream world and killing you in your dreams, they're all awesome concepts. It is a truly great character from its inception to where it is now. And I think the thing that always scared me, and most people, that made this so effective, especially when you're younger, is you have to sleep. I mean, you cannot fight sleep. Eventually, you're going to fall asleep. Your body will make you fall asleep. And if this were real, I mean, there's no getting away from this killer. So that concept is just insanely awesome. And then the second side of that is Robert Englund's portrayal. Now, if you're familiar with this franchise, as I'm sure everybody by now is, you expect a certain jokey, quippy kind of Freddy Krueger. This is a more subdued Freddy performance, maybe the most subdued Freddy performance in the series aside from New Nightmare, because he's hardly in it. Spoiler alert. That isn't necessarily a bad thing. I feel like Wes Craven took the template of some of your classic Universal monster movies, where it was shroud your monster in darkness, don't show too much of your monster, don't humanize your monster too much, make those moments super impactful. And I think that he really delivered in spades with that. Robert just embodies this character. The sadistic, vengeful dark side, the jokey one-lining prankster side. I mean, Robert, he delivers in spades in every movie. I feel like he gives it his all, and this was the start of that. But as I said, this is a different Freddy performance than what we had come to know, but I really love this kind of subdued Freddy. Now, it is give and take for me, and we'll get to that in a minute, but that's my first pro. My next pro is the cast as a whole. I really enjoy Heather Langenkamp in this movie, although she never broke onto the scene like somebody like a Jamie Lee Curtis or a Neve Campbell, but I think that Heather did really well in this movie, and I think that every time she's come back to play the character, I've enjoyed watching her too. She sells it, she's very believable, and she just looks like, your normal everyday girl next door. So there was some genuineness to her character. I love John Saxon in this movie. He is fantastic as Nancy's dad. Always loved him. He was right up there with Sheriff Brackett for me when I was growing up. I really like Johnny Depp in this movie as Glenn, obviously being, I believe, his first role. It's really interesting to see how much he's changed and how much he hasn't changed over the years. There's some fun moments with that friend group, lighthearted moments before it really gets dark. And I enjoy that. And I think that he's a welcome addition to this movie. And justice for Johnny Depp, by the way. And so I just want to say that I think the cast overall as a whole is very, very solid all the way around. I really enjoy this cast quite a bit. The next pro I would say are some of the kills. My gosh, Tina's kill alone is so memorable. Tina's kill, Glenn's kill, those are iconic kills in horror history. They're just fantastic. I mean, the remake and New Nightmare have tried to do different spins on the Tina style kill, and it never had the same impact as this one. Never. And I loved it. Glenn's kill absolutely terrified me as a kid because I would stay at my grandparents all the time, and my Uncle David's old bedroom, he had a waterbed. And you got me fucked up if you thought I wanted to sleep on that waterbed and fall through and get eviscerated under there and just have a fountain of blood shoot up. That's insanely gnarly. So I love some of the kills in this movie. And that kind of leads me into the next part, which is kind of like two parts. I love the tone of this movie and the juxtaposition of the tone, going from it's creepy at the beginning. You've got these lighthearted moments with these teenagers. You're really liking them. You're identifying with them. And then it gets really dark again. And I love the tones, the tonal switches. I feel like it plays off very well. Sometimes tonal switches like that can seem really jarring. And I don't think it's jarring in this movie. And I think that has something to do with Wes Craven's directing and the acting. I really do think that as long as those are, at a 10, you can sell any kind of tonal switch and it doesn't seem like a whoa, what just happened? So I've got to praise the tone and the overall just feel of this movie. But then the next is the imagery. This movie, I don't know if there is a horror movie from the 80s, and I could be wrong. This is just my opinion, and I'm a Halloween guy. I don't know if there's a horror movie from the 80s that has more iconic imagery than this one. Whether it is the hand up through the tub, whether it's Freddy through the wall, whether it's Glenn's, blood shooting up all over the ceiling, whether it's Tina's death, there is so much up. Freddy extendo arms down the alleyway. There's so many memorable moments in this movie. The imagery is iconic. I mean, it is throughout this movie, and I think that just adds to how impactful and this movie is and how it's a punch to the gut, man. It really, really is. This movie really leaves a lasting impression. So I love the imagery in this movie as well. Now, I could go on and on and on about some of these pros, but those are the biggest pros that I can point out. I should also give credit to the score. I love the score in this movie. Obviously, mainly the Nightmare on Elm Street theme is absolutely fantastic. I would put it right up there with Halloween in terms of being iconic, and you just hear it all throughout Halloween. So I love that. But there are some cons to this movie. There aren't many, but I'll get into a few. The first one being, since I am spoiled with knowing Freddy Krueger, the character, and what Robert brought to the character, yeah, of course I'd love to see more Freddy. So at times it is like, oh yeah, I'm watching A Nightmare on Elm Street, the original, so I'm getting a more subdued Freddy. When I put on a Nightmare movie, I don't know. I guess part of me just wants that classic Robert Englund, got your nose type performance. Maybe not that hammy, but I do miss that. And but again, that is because I'm spoiled to having had seen. Wow, really messed that up. I'm spoiled having seen the other movies in the series. So that's not a knock on the movie. It's just kind of a personal damn, that sucks. But it's great at the same time. What am I saying? Word salad. Take it. Live with it. Love it. There we have it. I've got to say that the blow-up doll, at the end, it ages horribly. It really, really does. There's just no... I think even the most ardent Nightmare defender would be like, yeah, that's just bad. I mean, it is. And it's not so much the blow-up doll. I'll get into what the real con is that I feel like the Nightmare movies, this franchise has always struggled to give us truly cohesive, great endings. That's not to say that there aren't strong ones in the series, but I feel like part 1, part 2, part 4, some of these endings are just, they leave a lot to be desired. They're kind of all over the place at times. And this is another one that's just kind of like, you watched about an hour and 20 minutes or so of a great movie, you get to this ending and you're like, huh? And I mean, the remake was the same way. It really was. It's like, you almost can't correct that ending. What's written, if you're going with that, it's just kind of like, it's not terrible, but it definitely leaves a lot to be desired. So the ending and really just kind of the effects at the end there, they don't age well. And then I guess this should be a two-parter to what I said was my first con, but I think I can really hammer it home here with this last point. The last con I have is just not really leaning enough into the character of Freddy. As great as it is to have that silhouetted kind of less is more approach, this is such a great character. I feel like Wes Craven hadn't quite found his stride yet with this character. And again, filmmaking it's a learning curve. It is a process. You put something out there, you take the criticisms, you take the compliments, and you improve on things moving forward. And I feel like with Michael Myers, he's a blank slate. I mean, you don't really need to do too much with him. Same thing with Jason. But Freddy is a character. I mean, he is a character in and of these are his movies. Whereas you can make the argument that some of the Friday movies and some of the Halloween movies, they're not about Michael Myers. They're about the other characters, and that antagonist is just there. But these are Freddy's movies. And I just feel like again, it's just a fact that we haven't got to the sequels yet. So I guess it really isn't even a con. It's just a minor gripe by me. We hadn't fully realized Freddy yet. And I was glad that we eventually did. But what you're basically hearing is me trying to stretch to find cons with this movie, because overall, there just aren't many. I mean, there really aren't. A Nightmare on Elm Street speaks for itself. Its staying power, its legacy, its director, its actors, its just effect on pop culture. I mean, Freddy Krueger ruled MTV at one point. Like this was huge. This was the start, not the start, but really the kickoff of a new era. Friday and Halloween were right there before it, but Freddy just really sent this into another stratosphere. And you've got to give credit where credit is due there. And I just think that this movie has aged very well. I think that all around it is super, super solid. I forgot to mention the most impactful piece of imagery in this movie is Tina in the body bag in the hallway. That scared the shit out of me as a kid. I still think it's creepy. So as I'm wrapping this up, I had to mention that because I'm like, wow, that's always in my head when I think about this movie. But this movie is just a true bona fide horror classic. And I miss Freddy on the big screen. I want to see him back. I really do. I don't think I want a remake, though. Give me a totally new story with new characters or a requel route. But anything but a remake, I think. I just don't need to revisit this. They did this right once. And I enjoyed the remake in 2010. I just don't want to see it again, personally. So overall, if I'm going to rate A Nightmare on Elm Street in 1984, I'm going to give A Nightmare on Elm Street in 1984... I'm going 5 out of 5 stars. I am. I just feel like you can nitpick all day with this movie if you want to. I choose not to. I'm not going to. I think this movie is fantastic. One of my favorite horror movies for sure. And just truly influential to where we are in horror today. So New Line Cinema, the Craven Estate, whoever may ever be listening, give us some more Freddy, for fuck's sake. That's going to be it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. Again, subscribe, follow me on social media, check out my Teespring. All the links for everything down below are down below. Check out the channel on Patreon, support me. And again, guys, my brain is shot. I am super tired. My kid woke up at like 8 a.m. I work all week. Sunday's my first day off, so I didn't get like any sleep last night. So I'm sorry I flubbed some words, but I'm here. I'm delivering the content. I love you guys. I appreciate all of you for your continued support. Thank you so much. This is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I am pulling out.